Hey guys, are my slides working? Yeah, cool. I'm David Grunwald. I look after partnerships for Google for Entrepreneurs out of Old Street in East London. We're the bit of Google that works with startup organizations and startups themselves to help entrepreneurs succeed. I'm delighted to be here today, not least because it's 20 degrees warmer than London, and I've already learned a lot about this wonderful city. I'm also delighted that Google for Entrepreneurs is a sponsor of this fantastic conference. Before joining Google 5 years ago, I worked as an early-stage staffer, founder 3 times over, and in strategy and digital project consulting roles. You might ask why Google has a team of people focused on entrepreneurship. It's pretty simple, actually. Google began as a startup in a garage and remains a startup at heart. We are committed to helping build a vibrant ecosystem for startups and enabling the next generation of entrepreneurs to be successful. We support innovation and entrepreneurship, both internally and externally, through technology, programs, and partnerships, and by fostering a culture of innovation. Our contributions to the entrepreneurship ecosystem provide real economic opportunities for people, businesses, and communities. And today, I want to speak about how we see physical space for startups as a critical component of that work. You're going to see quite a few pictures of spaces and places where startups begin, work, and grow. You might say I'm a little bit obsessed, but there's a good reason for that. First, let me show you where Google began as an independent company, when the search engine looked rather basic. That's a pretty standard garage on a pretty standard street in a pretty remarkable part of the world. Silicon Valley remains unique, but changes are afoot that mean that on some counts, the rest of the world is making progress to catch up. Way back at the end of the last century, I started working for web startups. A natural step, having written my first website in HTML2 in 1995. Doing the startup thing wasn't considered a valid occupation in England in the late 90s, so I combined setting up a web design agency with school and college, and later worked part-time for a medical.com in London during the bubble. Like many of my friends, when things crashed, I pursued a more traditional career path, joining a large international management consultancy on a graduate program, which I didn't enjoy, but stuck out for 3 years. Then, in 2004, I jumped, as did my co-founder, who'd been neglecting a computer science degree by training as an accountant. 2 semi-technical, business-literate, sort of geeky guys in their 20s with a big idea, few personal responsibilities, and a huge amount of energy and time. I moved back in with my parents, sold my car, and set up shop, literally, in my co-founder's front room, in a small apartment in North London. The main startup we worked on was SteelCube, a very high-end retailer of consumer electronics and lifestyle products, with rich content and some forward-thinking innovations, including a clean UX and live web chat, which I think we were the first to do that in the UK. That was completely different to most other e-commerce sites at the time. There followed an incredible ride. We did so much right, turning over $400,000 in our first year of operation, in 2005, on an initial friends and family investment of just $15,000. We separated a decent proportion of London's investment bankers from a decent whack of their bonus money, and had received good traction. Our range was featured in the national press, and we marketed ourselves successfully. We'd built a strong product. It wasn't quite as simple to do e-commerce back then, proven a market fit and gained substantial revenues. However, the more perceptive of you will notice that I'm not still running a web retailer, and that SteelCube is not a household name in yuppie toys. When my co-founder and I came to discuss scaling, we hit a few issues. Firstly, our equity split was completely messed up. We had a silent partner who owned 1/3 of the company, despite never having actually worked a day for it. This made things complicated. It was a rookie error, but we knew no better when we set up. We had no idea at all how to raise money. We tried using our network to meet people we thought had cash. On one occasion, we pitched to a hedge fund type who laughed us out of the room and told us that we'd basically spent pocket money on the company. Yes, we bootstrapped, but as far as we were concerned, that was a good thing. London's money people did not understand what we created. At one point, we had an angel lined up, but he wasn't involved in either retail or internet startups, and we rightly became nervous about how much value he'd offer to us. We wouldn't have known a term sheet or a convertible note if it had passed us in the street. We didn't have experience of challenge and guidance from anyone who'd previously scaled a web business, or from anyone vaguely related to technology. Everything from our name, which wasn't great, to our growth plans, which were fuzzy, to our back end, which was held together by bits of glue and tape, were in need of attention. Meanwhile, we were running out of cash fast. Eventually, instead of taking our first office, bringing in our first employees, and real warehouse space, we decided to call it quits and sold, not particularly well, to a couple of guys we knew in Scotland. I set up a few other web companies in London, but nothing lasted, and I returned completely broke to corporate life. It's a pretty standard story, and I'm not blaming my company's failure on any one thing in particular, but I have taken a lot of time to think about the reasons for that. Long ago, I came to the conclusion that the biggest single factor was isolation. London in 2005 looked very different to the vibrant tech centre that we see today. Even during the dot-com bubble of 2000, the city never generated particular density in an identifiable cluster. Instead, startups based themselves near parent industries or where office space was cheapest. From 1999 to 2001, I worked for an early social network startup serving doctors out of London's medical district on Harley Street. We were the only building with an ISDN line on our block, and we didn't interact with other tech companies from month to month. We saw a whole lot of physicians and patients, but no developers or startup folks at all. Fast forward to 2005, and things were arguably worse. My co-founder and I attended the occasional alcohol-oriented tech event, very much guys drinking in a room. And we went to one or two First Tuesday meetups, as they were known. But we simply didn't know or hang out with other entrepreneurs. We joined the high-end and pricey Adam Street Club, supposedly the haunt of London's tech elite in central London, where we held a party and occasionally took expensive meeting rooms. However, it soon became clear that the location offered us little other than a cool place to relax after the nightclubs closed. As good as we were at front-end design, marketing, or sourcing products, we had made practically everything for our startup up as we went along, with no critical challenge. I don't recall a single mentorship session worth its name. I'd never heard the word incubator, and the idea of sharing office space with others was completely alien to us. Our software was questionably written and frequently stopped working. Most notably when the Times of London featured our range after a long PR campaign in the run-up to Christmas, sending a traffic surge that knocked out our website. No one from outside the company had ever reviewed our code or advised us on hosting choices or resilience, even though our UX had won awards. In short, we lacked a network and a community that provided both technical and business guidance to early-stage startups like ours. SteelCube's experience back then was not unique. We, and others like us in London and the European tech scene, lacked an on-ramp. A 2014 report prepared by Google for Entrepreneurs partner Up Global, who organised startup weekends, amongst other things, identified 5 key ingredients for a successful startup cluster: talent, density, culture, capital, and a political and regulatory environment that backed startups. This built on the great work done by Brad Feld and others in earlier years. The report was specific about the role in building cluster density, as it's known. I'm going to quote, "Many successful startups, like Instagram, which was born in Dogpatch Labs in San Francisco, are born in co-working spaces that create a supportive environment to foster new businesses and provide training, networking opportunities, access to finance, and other activities. They serve as a home base for the startup community, and if possible, a free event space for education, demo days, and opportunities to convene. They also provide a focal point for investors, mentors, and others looking to support the startup ecosystem. Physical hubs differ from clusters in that a physical hub is usually a single building or a campus environment, whilst cluster describes businesses, including physical hubs, spread across a larger geographical area, for example, a city. I spend my working days traveling around European cities, speaking to entrepreneurs, investors, and policymakers, all of whom are seeking to build startup clusters where they live. From Startup Amsterdam to Sting in Stockholm, there are some really positive initiatives underway to build density for early-stage companies. Just on Tuesday, the Berlin authorities announced residential rent controls, something that London and Paris's startups could only dream of. Having felt the lack of a community very acutely when running a business myself, I'd like to give you some examples. of how Google for Entrepreneurs and our partners are trying to help develop ecosystems. Today, I'll be focusing on density. But first, it's worth setting the context. Co-working, a critical component but not the only factor in startup density, has spiked massively as the movement has grown in the last few years. According to DeskMag, there are now approximately 6,000 co-working spaces active worldwide for entrepreneurs, up from a negligible number in the mid-2000s. The options back then, as I felt very acutely, were either work from home or take office space, without anything in the middle and no services for startups. As an interesting aside, worldwide Google searches for the term co-working will pass Regus and Business Center in around 2 years, while searches for the term home office have halved in the last decade. However, despite the meteoric rise in co-working spaces for technology-enabled startups, many European cities lack capacity at the right price or the right volume. For example, while Sweden has gained numerous new co-working spaces in the past year, the enduring popularity of Guerrilla Office, a sort of flash mob for entrepreneurs, an open office community as they call themselves, that uses hotel lobbies and their Wi-Fi for free, suggests that not all needs are being met. There are two main ways that Google for Entrepreneurs works with physical spaces, both of which I'll discuss today. Firstly, we operate a number of campus locations, with more to come very soon. The first of these opened in 2012 in London, soon followed by Tel Aviv. Seoul opened early this year, and Madrid is launching in a couple of weeks. Right now, we're focused on getting Warsaw and Sao Paulo off the ground this year as well. We also partner with a number of the world's best independent tech hubs, organizations from Sydney to Berlin to Colorado that share our vision for entrepreneurs, are passionate about community, and are actively improving their ecosystems. A good tech hub is way more than just desks. We think of three main ingredients at Google for Entrepreneurs. First, density. The volume of people working on potentially world-changing projects in a confined space. The energy in the best co-working areas is almost tangible. They are busy, vibrant, and full of industry, and provide an invigorating and inclusive environment for startups. Secondly, community. This separates commodity desk rental with all of the necessary considerations around yield and occupancy from a truly valuable hub for co-founders, and relies on formal organizers and informal activist members giving back and convening events. You genuinely can't buy this stuff. It tends to form organically and relies upon experienced people giving something back to where they started, rather than moving up or out and eventually disappearing. Next up is serendipity, or luck, the unlikely, unexpected, and fortunate encounters that lead to innovation and breakthrough moments, whether by a lucky pairing at a mentorship session, a co-founder wanted note on a job board, or a chat over a beer on a Friday evening meetup hosted by Silicon Drinkabout or its equivalents all over Europe. When I arrive in foreign cities, I often ask if there's a single location where a visiting Silicon Valley investor might drop in for a coffee, if in town, for a few hours during a flight layover. This is where the magic happens, very often completely by accident. And a bonus fourth, coffee, a recurring theme in this presentation. Coffee Labs is a startup from Campus London, where I'm based. It matches members to each other at random to have coffee together, and has proven a great way for a diverse group of founders to meet each other. The web app itself came about through a lucky meeting between its two co-founders at a Campus London technical program. I'd now like to show you some examples of the amazing spaces and initiatives managed by Google for Entrepreneurs partner tech hubs all over the planet. Firstly, Tech Hub at Campus London. These guys were one of the founding institutions of the Shoreditch cluster and run the co-working floors at campus, with the ambition of nurturing early-stage startups in an energetic, collaborative environment. They're advertising 15 events for their members and the wider community in June alone, and we've recently announced they're setting up with us in Campus Madrid when it launches shortly. Their focus is so much broader than filling desk space, and community and enablement is at the heart of everything they do. Secondly, the Nashville Entrepreneurship Center. These guys run Project Musique, the first tech accelerator in the US dedicated to the future of the music business, and an example of a tech hub playing to the talents of its host location. They also run schemes focused on medtech, another regional strength. Their insight was that startups can reinforce an existing growth pole with innovation and energy from founders. Next up, NUMA. This presentation would not be complete without mention of our partners NUMA in Paris. Based in Saint-Thiers, they've been around for over 10 years, and 5 years ago opened the first co-working space in the city, followed later by the first startup accelerator in France. They've hosted over 1,500 events, accelerated 76 companies with a couple of very good exits, and more than 80,000 people have passed through their doors. I love the fact that NUMA's coffee area downstairs at their main hub is open to the street for anyone to access, and the New York Times published a piece only this week on the cluster that's grown up around NUMA in Saint-Thiers. Next up, Galvanize. They are a combined technical education provider and manager of community co-working at 5 campus locations in the western US. This is a picture of their gorgeous entrepreneur space at Soma in San Francisco, where students, founders, and established tech firms mingle. Google for Entrepreneurs and Galvanize announced on Tuesday that Galvanize's data science course will be coming to Campus London for the summer, their first foray into Europe. Our partner, The Factory, in Berlin, launched last year at an event attended by Google's executive president, Eric Schmidt, alongside senior German politicians. It's a huge 15,000 square meter complex in Berlin's ultra-cool and central Mitte district, right alongside the Berlin Wall. They've done a great job of attracting more established tech companies, such as SoundCloud and Sex Wunderkinder, who sold to Microsoft earlier this week, alongside earlier stage startups, and they run great events too, where both sets of groups mingle. Their co-working floor is soon to formally open. We work with 5 tech hubs across Africa, and here we've got iHub in Nairobi, Kenya. They're possibly the poster child of all such setups in Africa, and perhaps the most successful to date. They're part open community workspace and co-working, part gathering space for investors, and part incubator. It also houses a number of initiatives designed to build weight and ecosystem around the Kenyan tech entrepreneur, including a research department and UX and supercomputer labs. Finally, Astrolabs in Dubai. They're Dubai's only non-government-run tech hub, host to a truly international community, which includes startups from 15 countries, including 3 from France. They run outreach efforts across the Middle East. Astrolab's Scaling Online Startups course has had cohorts in Lebanon, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and elsewhere. Notably, its relationship with the UAE government means that Astrolabs offers co-working members a fast track to a company license in Dubai, which isn't easy. They waive license fees worth almost $10,000, reducing the cost and red tape burden for international startups seeking to access the Middle East's large, young markets. But how does Google for Entrepreneurs assist our partner spaces? Firstly, we bring a network of world-class entrepreneurship organizations together, a cohesive group, sharing best practice and collaborating amongst ourselves. In 2015, Gaza's Sky Geeks Accelerator raised one of the Middle East's largest ever crowdfunding rounds, partly thanks to promotion via Google for Entrepreneurs Network. Members of any tech hub can work at any other that opts in if they're an affiliated hub or campus. We assist our partners to scale and grow and to better serve their communities. In Europe, we help Berlin's Factory to launch and NUMA to expand. We design Google for Entrepreneurs corners at partner hubs and coordinate and maintain device labs to test their products across multiple platforms. We also offer high-quality content for partners to add to their own programs. Our Google Demo Day attracts the best startups from our US partners. Trailblazers is our annual partner summit for C-level executives of hubs in California to network and share best practice. Programs like Campus Exchange, which you'll hear more about, help internationalize startups from tech hubs around the world. We help our partners through increased diversity and inclusion, as well as access to entrepreneurship for all. Through Code 2040, we've hired underrepresented founders to sit in a number of US tech hubs as chief diversity officers. 2014's 40 Forward initiative helped to rethink the gender gap in tech, and we work with Aging 2.0, a global organization helping to drive innovation for older people. Finally, our network is a formal link to Google's people across both engineering and business capabilities. As just one example, NUMA hosted Google's developer-led Launchpad a couple of weeks ago in Paris. Launchpad is a week-long bootcamp for early-stage companies with product, UX, technology, and marketing pitch training, administered by the best experts sourced locally and internationally. I'm going to talk a bit now about Campus London, where I'm based. That's Google's space for entrepreneurs to learn, connect, and hopefully build companies that will change the world. At Campus, entrepreneurs get unparalleled access to mentorship and training led by the local community, as well as experienced entrepreneurs and teams from Google. Campus London opened in 2012, and in many people's view, represented a tipping point for the London scene. Certainly if it had existed when I was running startups, I probably would not have felt quite as isolated. The Campus London blueprint has been replicated dozens of times by hubs all over the planet, something we're completely delighted about. It includes a few key aspects. The Campus Cafe is, in my opinion, the most important bit of the building and one of the most important bits in the entire London startup scene. It's also the part of the building I would have used most if it had been around when I was running my own companies. Entrepreneurs can work there for free, and fast Wi-Fi, a bustling energy, and lots of like-minded people make it a great place to have a meeting or work for the day. Award-winning baristas run the cafe, selling fresh coffee and hipster food options to fuel great work. It's as designed for serendipity as is possible anywhere. In the cafe, there's a notice board advertising everything from co-founders needed to open roles at established startups to developers with some time to spare. This might sound trivial, but is often referred to as one of the key components of the London early stage scene. As you'd expect, each campus has a beautiful co-working space with desks, private offices and conference rooms. Like Tech Hub, we partner with local co-working organizations who manage the space and rent desks on a short-term or a long-term basis. Our campuses feature large event spaces which are in nearly constant use, normally 2 or 3 times a day. This event space is a community asset. Anyone can apply to host their startup event there at no cost, something which was a real innovation for the scene when first tested in London 3 years ago. We also host our own programs, like technical speakers, in the main event spaces. Education is critical to a thriving community. Campus has classrooms for entrepreneurs to attend training sessions of all kinds. Because Campus is a central hub for the startup community, partners including local accelerators and global startup organizations often maintain offices at Campus. For example, we host Up Global's European headquarters. This guarantees that they can be close to the heart of the scene. I now want to briefly talk about the sort of programs that Google for Entrepreneurs and our community organizes at our campus locations. Firstly, talks at campus. These bring international and local talent to inspire and share expertise, knowledge, and passion. Through campus, we hope to give entrepreneurs the chance to interact with top global figures. Just last month, we hosted the managing partner of 500 startups, as well as TechCrunch leaders at Campus Seoul. Elsewhere, we've previously welcomed Jimmy Wales, Astro Thaler, and Ariana Huffington to each speak to hundreds of gathered startup folks. Mentoring. At Campus, we provide access to experts who spend time one-to-one to support the growth of startups. These experts and mentors are comprised of local and international Google employees, and is how I first got involved with the space a couple of years ago. We volunteer our time, as well as investors and other industry specialists who do the same. The sessions are free and open to startups to sign up to if that week's topic looks relevant or interesting, and range from informal chats to deep technical expertise being imparted. Next up, Learn at Campus. This involves hands-on, one-to-many training sessions, organized as one-offs on specific topics by Google, run by experts and again, free for our community to sign up to. As an example, last week we held a business model masterclass for startups at Campus Tel Aviv, led by local investors. In the past, we've organized sessions on topics as diverse as Become a Founder 101 and how to get your app noticed. Connect at Campus events are structured networking programs, connecting startups to each other and the right people to help them grow. They include Industry Connect, which links high-caliber startups in the campus community with leading corporations or other institutions to facilitate education, partnerships, deals, and possible M&A. The program aims to match solutions created by entrepreneurs to problem areas for corporations through specific invite-only and vertically focused sessions. Our Campus Exchange program brings together founders from across the Google for Entrepreneurs network to benefit from campus and the local ecosystem for 1 week at a time. Each iteration focuses on a specific industry or theme. Most recently, Campus London ran an e-commerce focused version, which attracted startups from Ireland, Poland, Spain, and Korea, a couple of which have gone on to have further investment conversations with investors from London. We know that more diverse teams create better products, and Google for Entrepreneurs is all about equal access to entrepreneurship for all. It's something we're very, very passionate around. One study showed that companies with more equalized gender distribution have 30% higher IPOs when the time comes. In addition to our partner programs aimed at growing the number of female and minority founders, our campus locations run specific programs, including Campus for Mums, which is a baby-friendly startup school with a creche to help parents with an idea create a thriving business. It has 300 plus graduates globally already, and 100 plus mums and dads have gone on to found actual companies. Startups have been successful in raising funding and generating revenue, and mums has even had an exit. We're also piloting Founders Over 50 at Campus London. This is for first-time startuppers aged 50 or older. There's so much latent talent in this demographic which we're keen to see devoted to innovation. And every Wednesday for 6 weeks, the scheme provides a platform for inspiring, training and skill sharing to bring founders the support needed to grow their businesses. Our event spaces, as I've said, are open to anyone who wants to host a great event for the startup community. As mentioned, they're free to use, and we prefer events that are free to the community as well. Campus London hosts up to 100 events a month, and we estimate events bring 60,000 people through our doors each year. As you can see from the slide, Campus London has been a roaring success with over 40,000 registered members and more than 1,100 hours of mentorship delivered to startups. But don't just take my word for it. To make it real, I'd like to point to a couple of specific examples, both companies that were formed at the hub and have gone on to big things since, while remaining involved in London's community. Firstly, ITs. They were founded by Richard, who was made redundant in 2010 from a financial position in the City of London. He was a founder by necessity because there weren't many financial jobs going around at the time, and it was practically impossible to find another role. Based at campus, where he still is, Richard launched a software-hardware hybrid that offered geo-targeted digital display ads on London taxis, the first so-called taxi-top solution in Europe. 5 years on, he's turning over £1 million per year, has taken on employees, and is open for business in the US. Next up, Borrow My Doggy. Their founder, Ricky, was a VP at Amex and was keen to launch her own startup. She met her technical co-founder, Les, at a startup weekend. They came up with the idea and immediately put up a holding page online where they received 90 sign-ups before that same weekend was over. The project evolved via campus partner C Camp, now employs 15 people and is preparing to expand across Europe. Ricky also makes time to come back and share her experiences with the community in Old Street. It's clear that Old Street and the central London ecosystem have come on leaps and bounds since I ran startups in the 2000s. This was all formalised when, in 2010, the Tech City organisation was founded by the UK Prime Minister, David Cameron, to support the fast-growing cluster around Shoreditch and Old Street. It is funded by central government. Now, the area boasts more than 50 co-working spaces of different shapes and sizes, multiple accelerators and incubators focusing on specific verticals and niches, and all helping startups to grow. Dozens of corporates are now involved with startups in East London, from Tesco's to Barclays to John Lewis, the retailers. There were almost 16,000 new business registrations in Silicon Roundabout's postcode in each of 2013 and 2014, accounting for nearly 19,000 new jobs. And there's something useful every single weeknight, event-wise, whether deeply technical meetups or hacks, business skills training or pitching sessions, or just networking with beer and pizza with like-minded startup people. Clearly, the world has moved on since I was running startups in the mid-2000s. I'd like to think that if I was starting out as an entrepreneur today, I'd know immediately where to look for help and advice. Just a short 25-minute tube ride from the lonely apartment where my co-founder and I launched and then gave up on Steel Cube just a few years ago. Thank you very much for listening.